We live, baby. I got my boy Berti here. Today we are discussing Monster Hunter Wilds at its launch state, how it was during release, how it stacks up against other new gen titles. A little bit of a retrospective here. We're going to be looking back at World base game, Rise base game, just kind of, comparing them a little bit. Wilds did a lot of cool things. Wilds was a pretty solid release. I've enjoyed my time with it. I'm loving the game so far. Kind of sad I don't get to play enough because of this YouTube stuff and life stuff, but hey, I'm having a good time. There were things it did well and there are things that it didn't do well. And, that's fair enough. There's no such thing as a perfect video game. And Monster Hunter, we still love it despite its imperfections. Berti, is there anything you want to say to the audience before we get started?
What's up, guys? I'm back. I've been enjoying my time with Wilds as well. Of course, I have my gripes. As you said, no game is perfect, but the enjoyment I get out of it outweigh the gripes I have way more. And it's still fixable. Like, my problems might still be fixable.
True.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, the most fondly remembered aspects of World and Rise were either hammered out in title updates or through the DLC. So that is one of the better aspects of these games, is maybe if they're not the best at launch, they do have time to hammer it out, work on it, and make it the product that people will remember fondly.
Yeah.
So first things first, we do want to do a push and pull, because we are going to be talking about negatives, but we will also be talking about positives. Like I said, the game did some things poorly, or it could have done things better, and it also did some things really well. First things first, let's discuss...
Yeah, are we going to talk about title updates at all?
We will,
because they're still kind of part of base games, right?
Yeah, we will touch on title updates at near the end. This is mostly going to be for just regular launch, but it's near impossible to separate title updates from the games as a whole, because Monster Hunter Rise was literally completed via title updates in a very real sense.
And Wilds as well, you could say.
Well, Rise even more so, because the final weapon upgrades weren't even accessible. The end of the story wasn't even accessible. So it's kind of hard to separate it completely. We will be discussing Title Update 1 and how it stacks up to others, as well as some of my potential concerns and even the community concerns for title updates as a whole. So first things first, let's talk about story structure. So narrative-wise, I enjoyed the story enough. It was Monster Hunter story. They're not known to be the best in the world, and especially right now, currently playing through Clair Obscure Expedition 33. It's it's hard. It's hard to be okay, this story was top notch. But Monster Hunter stories have always been a vehicle to hop into these wonderful worlds that have been crafted and to fight these monsters. And Wilds does that. Wilds does that well. Now, how it does it? That's where a lot of people are meeting, that criticism. I did not like how every single story was basically the Baroth story, the Baroth quest from Monster Hunter World, where you're tethered to Alma or whoever else. You're having to go on Sacred Bag, and you can't even if a mining ore is to the right a little bit, you can't even go mine it because oh wait, don't step too far away, and then it auto turns you. I cannot tell you how many times I ran into how frustrating that is, dude. Just let me play the game a little bit. Give me a little freedom here. I like the grapple hook thing. I like that being able to Spider-Man things. And maybe they added that as kind of okay, these guys are going to be so mad if they can't gather anything. But at the same time, why are you making me do this every single quest, dude? I don't think it's a great introduction into how these games work, if that's how they're trying to introduce the series.
Yeah, it wasn't that way in the older games.
Did it bother you as much as it bothered me?
No, not really, because I was I'm just gonna, I didn't care much about exploring while doing the story missions. So I was I'm gonna get these out of the way and then do whatever I want to do afterwards.
Well,
right?
I'd be more inclined to agree with you if it wasn't the entire story, which was all of low rank.
I definitely think the criticism is justified. It didn't bother me as much because I didn't go out of my way to go, even try to explore, at least during the story quests themselves. But yes, they could have done it in a way where, for example, if you wanted to explore and you left Alma, that she just pauses and waits for you.
Yeah. A lot of other games do that. A lot of other games already do that. You know what I'm really thinking of why it frustrates me more?
Good.
Is also because the way they did multiplayer. You have to get to the cutscenes to be able to fight the monster, which means that if you're helping someone play through the game, you're gonna have to wait for them to go through that whole tether section, or if you're trying to replay the game. I think that's the main thing for me, because I'm having I'm having flashbacks to World, right? Where you had to get to the
Exactly.
cutscene. It's already bad enough, but now you're literally forcing people to get in a train seat and then just follow the sacred to the cutscene. And it's just World 2.0 all over again, except this time you're being held, your hand is being held, personally, if you're going through it.
Also in World, the way, we just described it, how they could have done it, they did it in World like this.
But there was no like having to follow people. Like even in the Baroth quest where you're having to guide the dude's wagon, you can still walk away from it. You can go fight Rathian and kill Rathian.
That's what I mean. Like that's the thing. They did it right in World, but they went backwards, quote unquote backwards, or did it in a different way, in a worse way in Wilds, which is strange.
It's weird. I think they just took too much inspiration from Sony type titles, movie games.
They were trying to be more cinematic and put more emphasis on it, which fair enough, I guess.
I would like for them to not do that again.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree.
No in the DLC. Hopefully none in the DLC. I think the other thing that kind of bothers me, I don't mind the story being low rank only. I think that was actually kind of interesting. But I think one thing that kind of led to a lot of people getting either disappointed or potentially, I don't know, they built up expectations. So like, you go through low rank in World and Rise. Mm-hmm. And World, for example, the end fights are Diablos and Rathalos. And you do have the opportunity to fight Kirin, but you have to do an optional quest chain to do it, and a lot of people didn't even do that. Then when you hit HR in World, you have Nergigante, Ushala, Teostra, Valhazak, and Kirin. And all of it's part of the HR story and progression, and you unlock it all. And it's wow, I have these really heavy duty monsters to unlock. Whereas in Wilds, when you get to HR, the HR exclusive monsters are Rathalos, Rathian, Gravios, Gypseros. I mean, sure, you get Gore at the end. You've already fought Guardian Arkfeld, so regular Arkfeld doesn't feel as special, especially since he was also beta monster.
Yeah.
And
you fought Zoshia, which is the biggest spectacle in the game.
True, and you fought Zoshia already in low rank with no opportunity to refight him. And you also fight Jin Dahad in low rank too. Sure, it's a repel, but you fight him in low rank too. Could they have not at least saved something big? I don't know. The thing that kind of saved the low rank to high rank progression, because the whole meme of Monster Hunter fans, whenever they get to refight every monster except with 10% more attack, 10% more health. Woo, yippee! That's a funny reductionist meme about the jump from low rank to high rank, but it's kind of true. If you don't have more things to look forward to in high rank, it can feel a little bad, because it's what am I unlocking now? Rise, this is where we're, like we said, we're gonna have to touch on the title update stuff. Rise probably was intended to leave with 3 Elder Dragons. We got the 3 Elder Dragons in title update 1, Kushala, Teostra, Camelios. It was probably meant to roll out with that. So it probably would have had something similar. Allmother as well, yeah. And Allmother was awesome too as a final boss. And even then, you still had Narwa and Ibushi in high rank. So you did have 2 spectacle, they were Elder Dragons. I don't mind the whole no Elder Dragons thing in Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't mind it. As long as you're able to still provide an escalation of difficulty and challenge and emergency in a narrative standpoint. And I think they did that really well with Gore Magala, at least. Arkveld was kind of weird in that, oh, he's extinct, but all of a sudden here's an egg and now all of a sudden he's back. That was kind of weird. But his fight's cool. So I don't really mind the no Elder Dragons thing. I think it will make Elder Dragons more impactful when they start adding them in, which I think is kind of cool, especially since they're already going kind of nuts with some of the capabilities of some monsters. Like Arkveld, Gore, they made high rank Gore feel as oppressive as Sunbreak's master rank Gore. So they're doing some good things. And even the way, I know we said we wouldn't touch on title updates, but Mizu, for example, title update 1 Mizu, the way that they're adding kind of deviant moveset, I am very hopeful for the future. And I was hopeful even before title update 1 dropped. It was just, it was kind of hard to see. Mizu kind of helped out with that a little bit more.
It was funny because I remember a lot of us were disappointed with Mizu being the first title update monster. But with how they did it, this disappointment vanished. You know, it's like, oh shit, that's pretty cool what they're doing.
Yeah, that shit
I want
was
to see
really
more.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the high rank story or the high rank in Wilds is different than World. World, you had the story, and then you had to after the story you unlocked tier 1 tempered, and then after you got to a specific HR, you had to do the double tempered basil quest. You unlocked tier 2 tempered, and then when you hit HR 49, you had to fight double tempered Kieran, and you unlocked tier 3 tempered. In HR Wilds, it's different. You're still hitting HR like thresholds, but you are unlocking the different tiers of tempereds as you go through the HR story. So like,
yeah,
as opposed to tempered Kieran unlocking tier 3 elders, you have Arkveld unlocking tier 3 tempereds, or is it Gore? Either one. You have like one of those two, because it's like literally like 2 or 3 HR in between them. So it's weird. Like you have a base monster unlocking the highest form of tempered. And then Rise was even weirder. You know, if we're going to count title update 1 and 2, you had to, first off, they locked HR to HR 7 on launch for Rise, which was, okay, that kind of sucks, but they always give you the proper HR once they uncap you. They didn't do that in Rise.
I was gonna say that the XP did not get saved in Rise this time.
When they removed the HR cap, everyone that was playing at launch stayed at HR 7 no matter how much time they put in, which sucked. And I can tell you they probably did it because they tied unlocking everything to HR. In order to fight Camilius, you had to be HR 20. In order to fight Kushala, you had to be HR 30. In order to fight Teo, you had to be HR 40. In order to fight Allmother, you had to be HR 50. I don't remember Crimson Glows. I don't remember if it was like 70 or 100 or something like that.
Yeah, it was one of the two, yeah.
But when they dropped Crimson Glow with Allmother, they had him, unlocked after that. So I don't know. I do, as far as structure goes, it can be kind of weird the way they're changing it up over and over again. I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad thing as far as like how they unlock the HR stuff. I do wish that they had more big, like cool monsters and threats to put in high rank only. I thought the way that they spread it out was a little weird in this game.
Also, the choice of monsters to be unlocked in high rank, like Gypceros, makes no sense.
Gypceros, Rathian Rathalos.
Exactly. I mean, Rathalos, maybe?
It felt weird fighting Guardian Rathalos and then having regular Rathalos, in high
the order
rank.
is strange. Yeah, maybe they should have put freaking the Guardians. But then again, the way they tied it into the story is, yeah.
Yeah, Guardian Fulgur being tied to HR only, that was cool. Maybe they should have leaned more into like having some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because Guardian Fulgur, he's pretty beefy. Like even compared to like Master Rank Fulgur from Iceborne.
Oh yeah.
Like he's like cool. Like he has really cool moves. They give him that Devil Joe like ramming his face into the ground and launching himself at you, except they gave him at that Mach 5 speed. With the explosions and the thunder. Oh,
I was gonna say
so
the Wilk
cool.
explosions.
Oh man, so cool. Well, anyways, yeah. Story structure, I think there are definite tweaks. Is it anything to like ruin Wilds? No, I don't think so. I do think that they're still having to experiment because what other game does a progression system like Monster Hunter where you have low rank and then high rank? There's not many games that do stuff like that, and so they're having to trailblaze. So I can give them some leeway that they're wanting to experiment, wanting to try out different things. Some things aren't going to land, which is fine. It's not game breaking for me.
Yeah, same. I've been thinking like about other games that do it similarly. I don't think there's many, or if at all.
Yeah, the only other games that seem to like try to emulate it are Monster Hunter clones. In some form or fashion.
Wild Hearts.
Yeah, like God Eater, Wild Hearts. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Let's talk about Endgame layout and loot pool and things like that. So one of the criticisms of Monster Hunter Wilds that a lot of people have is about the end game. And yeah, I mean, there are definite things to criticize. There are definite things they could have done a lot better. You already know my feelings on end games and Monster Hunter, Berti, and if you've watched some of the previous vids, you've probably heard this before, me say something like this before, but end games in Monster Hunter have always been pretty bad. They were non-existent before 4, which people played Monster Hunter for the love of the game, which is cool. That's at the end of the day, you got to enjoy what you're playing, and you got to want to play it. And if an end game loop is what incentivizes you to play it, that's awesome. And I don't blame you, because I'm in a very similar boat. But as far as Monster Hunter goes, this is my third base game that I'm experiencing. All of the new gen, I've experienced all of the new gen DLCs from launch. They drip feed every single one of them. The most 100% comprehensively complete end game cycle has actually released was actually Base World. Yeah, it was actually Base World, because you had your tier 3 tempered, you had your stream stones and decorations, and that was your end game loop. And you had more choices to fight compared to Monster Hunter Wilds as far as efficient ways to grind the end game. And so in a lot of ways, it was more complete than Wilds. However, Wilds is right behind it. World, it had guiding lands for Iceborne, but even guiding lands required 2 updates to even add a couple of other zones, and also to add the finished forms of augmentation and even layered weapons. And wasn't it even layered armor too was added in title updates? I can't remember.
I think we only got high rank layers first, and then
that's right. Yeah, we only got high rank layers. So yeah, even Iceborne didn't launch complete in endgame. Even Sunbreak didn't launch complete in endgame. The anomaly system was drip fed across title updates. So as far as end game completeness goes, World is probably the most complete. Wilds is probably the second most complete at launch. So you can dislike how the end game works, and I don't blame you, because I'm about to list off some of the reasons why I dislike a lot of it. But as far as completeness goes, no. World and Wilds base were actually probably the most complete, which is really funny to think about. When I say no end game has been good, you can say that. So
I'd say when you said that World feels more complete because that you have also more choices of efficient farming, I was gonna disagree, but then I was thinking, the most efficient way to farm is technically Arcveld, right?
Yeah, it's the only 8-star. It's tempered Arcveld.
If they release the game with all the apexes being an 8-star.
Yeah, which they plan on doing through title
exactly,
updates, which is really good. It's a really good step in the right direction.
Yeah, with that update, we're gonna have more choices than in World, because you have Xochitl as a choice, you have Mizu, and then you have the 4 apexes, and Arcveld, and Gore. Wait, Gore is also gonna be an 8-star, right? I believe.
Yeah, Gore.
Make him one?
I think Gore as well, and I think they're probably gonna make any new title update monsters 8-stars too.
Yeah, so
even Mizu.
So even with the late May update, which is gonna add all the 8-stars, we're gonna have a good amount of choice for if you want to min-max farming.
Yeah, and so people that are coming in late are gonna be eating good.
Yeah, always. I mean, it's always the case.
That's Monster Hunter though. That's new gen Monster Hunter. Yeah. So now that we talked about that, I think getting down to some of the things that I dislike about some of the design choices. So you can tell design wise, and even from interviews, the devs didn't want you to blast through to tier 8, Arcveld. The HR experience was meant to be more of this is the end game. All of high rank is the end game to them in a way. And the way because they describe it in interviews, people are going to like the end game because you can sit on the map and any monster can come on the map and you can start hunting them for good rewards, and the chance for a 5-star monster to drop will come in and they'll have decorations and Ardian parts. Here's my problem with this. HR is very easy in Wilds. I mean, it's easy in general, but you're not going to be stuck below HR 40 for very long. You're just not. If you're doing optionals, if you're just hunting with buddies, I mean, you could literally pass the time away in one day and hit that if you really wanted to. If you're a mad lad. My problem with the way that they implemented all of this is because they did that, they had to justify fighting tier 1 and tier 2 tempereds. And here's my issue, is a diluted loot pool. Ardian parts 6 and 7 are useless. Regular monster weapons just outclass 6 rarity and 7 rarity Ardian weapons. The only time you would ever make an Ardian weapon is like my boy Berti here, who made one Ardian weapon because he was like, yeah, I just want to make an SNS or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think that's the only point they are useful is because at the time you can make Ardian 6 ones. Like, the monster weapons that you can make are all weaker. Like, the Ardian weapons are actually stronger.
Well, the funny thing is, the only reason why you even had to do that was because you were playing like every weapon throughout the whole game. And most people don't do that. Most people, you had to grind a lot more than everybody else. Most people will only play with like one weapon or two, maybe.
I was switching weapon every hunt, pretty much.
Yeah, and even then, you still only made like one rarity 6 Ardian, weapon.
Yeah, then so I made like 1/7 one as well, and
yeah. So it's like even like under the scenario of a dude, you literally switching weapons every hunt, basically, still not using those to the fullest extent. Another issue with Lootpool, decorations. The lowest tier decoration rewards, you can just meld them. They literally made it where you can just meld them. So you have no incentive, reward-wise, to go back and fight those monsters that are only offering the lowest level decorations and rarity 6 or rarity 7 Ardian parts. So the whole concept of incentivization, because when you think about what an endgame is doing or attempting to do, it's attempting to reward you for fighting specific monsters at the end of the game. That is the whole principle of endgame. There is not much incentive beyond just for the love of the fight itself to fight lower level monsters. But another problem, lower level monsters aren't able to fight very well against endgame gear. And that's not just a wilds thing. I'm not just saying that to dunk on wilds. But I'm just saying you cannot have no reward incentive, and you can't have a no challenge incentive for the monsters, which is why, Berti and I were actually discussing this a little while ago, but the anomaly system from Sunbreak, which can make any fight in the game more dangerous, more respectful. Like you're fighting a higher anomaly Azuchi, you're still going to have to fight him as hard as you would something by the end of HR, or master rank. You're having to respect these monsters, and you're incentivized to do it because the reward loop for augments and things like that were tied to even smaller monsters. And also Sunbreak anomaly fights made it to where every monster had a final upgrade on their weapons. So you could actually make better weapons as well. And one example of that is the Great Ragi Sword and Shield, which was meta for a really long time. So that would be cool. And you could be like, oh, well, that was master rank. Well, no. Monster Hunter 4 rolled out with guild quests, and it was almost the same thing as the anomaly system. It wasn't like anomaly monsters, but it was like you're fighting higher powered versions of monsters accessible throughout the game. And I don't remember if it was like every monster or not. I do remember you could fight like Velocidrome or something. I'm not talking about from experience, but I'm talking about like just seeing people discuss. So there was incentive to fight the whole roster, and there was reward added on as well. Wilds doesn't do that. They diluted their loot pool with Ardian 6 and 7, which you outgrow just from playing the game organically. And they're not as good as regular monster weapons in general. And you also diminish the need to deco farm lower level tempered investigations because you can just meld them. At least with World, as much as I disliked Streamstone farming, the common loop that people would do is they would Streamstone farm tier 3 tempered elders. They would get their health augment for their weapon, and then they would go to tier 2 quests to deco farm. Because a lot of the really rare decos like non-elemental, guard up, things like that, you got those better from tier 2 tempereds. It wasn't, a perfect system or by any means. I mean, I was actually discussing with Lou Tyrannus and MH United, and MH United and I were talking about World, Streamstone, and tempered farming, and he reminded me about, he was actually the one who reminded me of it, how people would just go into tier 2 Legiana, and they would just flash pod cheese them to death over and over again. Like, it literally wouldn't be able to fight because it would just try to leave the zone, and you would just flash pod it to death. And that was, title update 2 was whenever they made it to where you couldn't just infinitely flash tempered monsters. So that's how people were playing base World on launch. They were fighting tier 3 elders, which it boiled down to Nergigante, Teo, or Valhazak because nobody wanted to deal with Kush. Unless unless you had like HBG guys coming in to destroy Kush.
Well, funny enough, I was speed farming Kush with bow. I
Or
made an
bow,
anti-Kush
yeah.
freaking bow set and just destroyed him in like 2 minutes. Every time.
True. Well, the thing is, like, most people just, if you went to like a tier 3 tempered lobby where people were posting quests, most of the time you still wouldn't see Kush.
No.
But yeah, it was just very limited. Rise was, Rise. Even whenever the title updates came out, you got your rampage weapons, engage with rampages and shit. And you got your deco, you built your decos, and you would just roll at the slot machine to get your charm.
To be fair, with Rise system, while it was really bare bones and the true endgame, or like not true endgame, but the only real loop that there was if you finished your deco grind was charms. The good thing about, like, as bad as it was, like the pure charm grind, you could at least fight anything and use any parts to melt the charms.
That is true.
You could but make some sort of progress.
Yeah, I mean, you would be able to make some progress, but there was like clear winners who you'd grind because their parts would be more expensive.
Triple Apex quests and stuff.
Yeah. So,
which I'm not actually sure. Did they add those as because they were optionals, right? That you unlocked when you finished all the other ones. But did they come in title updates, or did we have the Triple Apex quests in the arena already at the beginning?
Apexes came in title updates. In fact, I think
as event quest.
I think base Rise only rolled out with 2 Apex monsters at launch.
You might be right. I don't remember anymore. I don't want to say anything wrong.
Yeah, because title update 1 added Diablos and Rathalos, I think, as Apex monsters, and then the Crimson Glow update added Apex and Ogre.
You're right, but I think I was trying to remember. Were you able to fight them in Rampage already, or no?
No.
Before that,
they weren't in the game. They weren't in the game.
Damn.
And if I think it was title update 1 where they even made it to where you didn't have to be in Rampage to fight them. Like you could actually unlock the actual fight. So there's that drip feeding with title updates. But at the end of the day, criticism to Wild's end game, I kind of just look at it as it's par for the course. It's just one of those things about being a Monster Hunter fan nowadays. And yeah, you could say, oh, you can't just say it's okay because all of them were bad. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying, what I'm saying is I would like something like 4, where they come out with and incentivize fighting a lot of the roster and it's complete. And, all these other things. I would love that.
4 or Anomaly.
Yeah. 4 is well, like in terms of like other base games, like in
but if you're talking about base game,
and 4 is the only example of this like being done. Goated 4 or whatever, but it's just kind of par for the course. It's, it is what it is. It's just one of those things. Hopefully, they change this at some point. Hopefully, they actually do something with it, because right now, like I said, it happened in World, it happened in Rise. Wilds seems to be getting a lot more flack for it. And I'm thinking it's because people are tired of it. Either fucking put out a good end game or don't.
Well, to be fair, to give the Wild some credit, I think the end game is better than people make it out to be, in my opinion, because we can grind for decos, because there are some desirable decos that are not easy to get.
I'm still trying to get that offensive guard 3 Iron
with
Wall
guard
1. Yeah,
exactly.
Still trying to get that.
And there's multiple of those. I still don't have a freaking Crit Boost 3 one. Freaking we have.
Wait, you still don't have Crit Boost 3?
I don't have Crit Boost 3.
You can have one of my like 6, dude.
Bro, I need one of them. And freaking we could grind for layers, because it's the first time in new gen where we have layers already.
That is true. Rise would add layered armors, but it wouldn't be until a title update.
Yeah. So, and also Artian, as flawed the Artian system is, it's still not terrible because the weapons are kind of cool and customizable.
I think it's dog shit, dude. I think it's dog.
Well,
even Rampage weapons had layered.
I was gonna say, if they had layered, I would like them way more, and that's why I barely use the Artian ones, because I don't really care. I don't care that much.
Well, that's the thing though. Like you're a multi-gamer like me. It affects you a lot less. Like it having a kind of shitty end game and like Ardian weapons being the loop.
Yeah.
But for someone who like they're only playing WoWs, or they're only playing Monster Hunter, it's a lot bigger of an issue.
But I would if I try to put myself in that perspective of playing only that, and I did that in World, I feel like I would have suffered in World more maybe.
I mean, World was ass because you had the terrible Streamstone drops alongside terrible Deco drops. It was like two horrific pulls. I never was able to put health augment on my Devil Joe IG, even like after grinding all that time, in tier 3 lobbies.
That's the thing. Like I grinded all of that. That's why I'm criticizing it. Like in World, I had all decos. I had Streamstones for all my weapons. Because
I never got non-elemental. I never got guard up.
Exactly. But you know me. I also farmed all the KT weapons. I found everything in World because I don't know why.
You didn't have anyone to play with. You didn't play anything.
Exactly. But hey, that's how we met. So
hey, we did meet. It was Iceborne though. It was
Iceborne. Yes, true. Yeah.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, I did everything in base World. Like, there's nothing I didn't farm.
Yeah, well, I mean, to someone that's not little German guy sitting in his room only playing World, this shit's ass, dude. This shit's ass.
I know.
It's
I know.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers and hope that they actually take all of the criticism about the endgame to heart, because it's kind of like. Just do something. You've already done stuff like this in the past, and that's why people are so hard on Wilds, is because these guys have done things in the past that were better already.
Yeah.
They've already done things in the past, and it's not like they're like, oh, we're trying something new. No, this is just World 2. Ardian parts are just different Streamstones. Decos are just decos. Like it's still like it's World 2. You're farming tier 3 tempered equivalents. So, they're not going that far different. You can do better, Capcom. I believe in you.
Well, them doing something better in the past and doing it worse in the new games is a trend, kind of, right? With some things, weapon balance, weapon movesets, freaking endgame systems. There's multiple things that they do.
Well, there's a difference between like them trying something experimentally and it not landing, and then them just doing a rehash of something they already did that was ass. Well,
also the weapon change that sometimes make like no sense.
Yeah. Well, that's Monster Hunter, baby. That's a Monster Hunter, baby. All right, moving on from Endgame and Lootpool and stuff like that. Let's talk about performance, matchmaking, and other potential questionable design choices. Now, well, I know we went from one negative, now we're going to another, but I'm going to start it off with, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a positive, actually. So, and as far as console goes, so when I think back at Base World, the hardware it was released for was PS4 and Xbox One, the original Xbox One. I don't even think the Xbox One X was out at the time. Well, I was playing on the original Xbox One, and the game had, if it wasn't 60 FPS, there were frame drops.
It wasn't even 30.
It was 30. It was
sometimes it would drop below that.
It depended.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't run super well. Now, in 2018, console players were used to like 30 FPS for like action games and stuff. So it wasn't like it was that bad of a deal, but it wasn't pristine, top notch. I mean, other games at that time period were already hitting higher frame rates. Games that were better looking than World hit higher frame rates and were more consistent. And so, not the best performer in the world. And then when it launched on PC and everything, it also had lots of problems and issues. Rise was honestly kind of impressive on its original hardware. Considering the fact that it was made for Switch, the fact that it could run a stable 30 while sacrificing only some graphical fidelity as compared to like its console releases later is really impressive, because third party struggled on the Switch hardware. I mean, there are so many third-party launches that were just memed on because of how bad they looked on Switch. Whereas like Monster Hunter Rise was an actual marvel. Now, wasn't it an in-house marvel, like something like Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey? No, but like we said, third party. It was honestly pretty impressive that it ran at a really good stable 30 on the Switch. It was honestly pretty impressive, and they stylized the graphics and the art style so cool. It was nice all around. Rise launch was probably the best performance-wise, like as far as like on launch hardware, which is kind of funny to think about.
Well, that's the magic of dedicated development, right? If you know, that's why a lot of these PS5, like, gotta give credit to these PS5 games, they look so great and they run so great because they're made for PS5.
Yeah.
That's, you know, if the developers know what they're gonna work with, and it's gonna be only that, then they can do some nice stuff.
Yeah. And you know what? To give some flowers to Wilds, even though their performance isn't great and they struggled with a lot of stuff, Wilds rolled out on console with the ability to run a performance mode. And the performance mode is actually really good. The fact that I can run like a stable 50 frames to 60 frames is really, really, really nice in most areas. Now, there are definite bad frame drops, really awful frame drops. I hate fighting Arkfeld in the Scarlet Forest. I really hate fighting Uthduna. But the fact that I can actually hit some good frames with performance mode, I gotta give flowers to Capcom for this one, because I was worried that I would not be able to. I was worried I was gonna have another 30 FPS game in 2025, which was not gonna be good. But no, the game looks good enough. It looks good enough as far as like console's concerned, and the frames are good enough. Now, PC, another different story. These guys are getting absolutely shit on about performance in a lot of ways.
I might be able to speak more to that, because and especially I can deliver two perspectives, because, you know, I played through the whole game, Jesus, with my girlfriend, and we both have top of the line PCs. I'm talking latest Ryzen CPUs and, you know, NVIDIA GPUs of 4080, 4090, 7800 X3D and above. So for people who know, it's some top of the line stuff. And I had never had a crash. Like maybe once, maybe. And the performance was okay. Like we're talking, sometimes it would dip below 60 FPS, but, you know, 60 to 80. And I'm playing on 4K and you know, max settings. But my girlfriend has a even better PC. But she would get crashes in the first, for example, 2 days, every 50 minutes.
Damn.
That's terrible. Yeah. At like top of the line PC with the best parts you can buy. That's like, how can you explain it? You know, that's like Capcom PC goofiness.
Well, it's just another example of another hard launch for PC. Like in the past years.
It's I think another example of our engine is not made for open world. Not that, at least on PC maybe, because Resident Evil and stuff and Devil May Cry, you know, also our engine games, they run amazing on anything. But Dragon's Dogma 2 shit the bed. Everyone knows. In more than one way. Yeah. And now Wilds, you know, probably runs better than Dragon's Dogma 2, to be fair, but it's still struggling on PC.
Well, you know, that kind of leads into this next talking point, is Capcom biting off more than they can chew. So, like, they have these huge maps with, like, weird design choices. Like, oh, you can go through every single map without a loading screen. Isn't that cool? And it's like, okay, whatever. You know, novel design is cool and all, but what's the point of interconnected maps when quests don't let you move maps and environmental links lock you in to a specific map? You can't move to another map with other people. What's the point in that when your only choice is solo moving without doing a quest? It's like, oh, look what we can do, dog and pony show. But put some loading screens in, for the love of God. Please, Capcom, you're not ready for this. You can't do this. And like that's one of my biggest issues is like they went so hard on this design choice, on this specific style, and they bit off more than they can chew. And this is one of my biggest issues. During the time that they could have devoted resources, time, and all these other things towards smoothing out the game with other bug fixes, keeping legacy features in from other games, actually rolling out the final boss of low rank with its armor as another fight. You know, and you know, I have a whole list I'll get into in just a second as soon as I finish this thought. But how in the world, you know, did they decide, okay, we need to do this, and then they bite off more than they can chew? They're having to fix bugs, they're having to fix issues. Awesome enough. Another good positive point, Wild's implemented crossplay. Awesome.
Oh yeah,
we have needed
that's
that in
huge.
Monster Hunter. It's so big. And you know what? Wilds gets lots of points for me, just in general. Even though some of the multiplayer features are a little goofy, I don't remember people disconnecting as much in the other titles. But people like disconnect a lot in this one. There are some hiccups, but crossplay, so big. The fact that this is now present in Monster Hunter is something we needed. We needed that so bad.
Well, also crossplay, and also I don't know if you want to get into the link, environment link stuff yet, or when do you want to do that? Because I was gonna mention link parties are actually, I think, a good thing, because you can be connected even not being in the same lobby, and you get, you know, automatic quest invites when you post something and stuff. That's pretty cool.
I think it's interesting, but it's also like a novelty in a way.
Yeah. But then we can get into environment links, which are messed up in so many ways. And I want to say a couple things about that, because, you know, they were going for this whole seamless thing. But Monster Hunter is meant to be a multiplayer game. You know, even they acknowledge that, like they want it to be a big multiplayer experience. Then why do you know, disable so many features as soon as you try to play multiplayer with someone? You know, okay, you go into an environment link, you cannot move maps, you cannot do a seamless transition, you know, use those pathways to the different map. You cannot even rest at the tent to reset monsters, so you actually have to wait. Like, what were they going for?
Yeah, true.
There's so many bad things about the environment link, which I'm like, just remove it at this point. Like,
well, I think that, you know, it's basically, it's just expeditions. You know, it's literally just expeditions.
Yeah.
The hard part is whenever they've introduced so many mechanics, and like you said, the rest thing, the game is very contingent on rest to even like supply you with your trade items, you know. And in the previous games, you would just go on a hunt and you'd come back and you would already be accruing, you know, your herbs, your antidote your antidote herbs, your mandragora, you know, you'd be already accruing that. In this game, a whole day has to pass in order to get the access to new investigations, because they've replaced random investigations with the random monsters populating with different investigation parameters. In order to get those to populate in a different way, you have to rest. And environment links, you can't do any of that seamlessly. And so that's, you know, it seems like they bit off a lot more than they could chew with like a lot of different things. And so you have a bunch of systems that don't quite make sense with what they're trying to go for, and a map design philosophy that could be putting more strain on the game than it needs to, when all it really needed was some loading screens, because you're basically doing the same thing anyway, having to load up different instances in an environment link or a quest. So it's really, really goofy, especially considering the fact that if I'm in an environment link and I want to post a quest, we have to leave the environment link first, you know. So like there's just so many like questionable design choices, and all of these complications, like I said, despite having ambitious map size and scale, despite having ambitious multiplayer, despite having all these ambitious things, these are things that were missing, and some of them still missing whenever Wilds launched. And this is in comparison to previous games-based launches, like the World and Rise. So you had the arena quests, and the thing about arena quests is you also had missing arena quest rewards. Arena quest rewards with tokens, that's been a thing for forever, for a long time. Not tokens, but coins. Challenge quests. Gathering Hub wasn't there at launch. Palico gadget control. You weren't able to control your Palico's gadgets. And that's...
I want to ask something real quick. The challenge quests, I think they were also like slowly added after release. I don't think there were any on release.
No, there were challenge quests on release.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
There were also challenge quests added in title updates and stuff too. Like sort of like also some added that were kind of like events in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just like one feature that just wasn't there at all.
Yeah.
Palico gadget control. And you could say like it's intentional design that the Palicos just have every gadget and whatever. But beforehand, Palicos had different balancing properties. Like you could... I know during my difficulty video, I didn't bring up like I didn't harp too much on the Palicos because I honestly find them less useful than Rise, Sunbreak, and GU Palicos. I actually like the Wilds Palicos less. When they're not trying to flash Gore Magala and they're in the hot air blimp whenever you're actually hurt, all these different things. Or later on, if we ever get Elder Dragons, they're going to be dropping traps on them. There's no like customizability as far as that goes, and people like to talk about how like they're healing all the time. Not really. They heal like twice and then they have a little cooldown. Same thing with like the status ones.
Also, I was gonna say actually, I feel like people that are not to take a shot at people that suck at the game or are not that great, but I feel like worse people are gonna benefit more. Because the Palico heals are kind of, I feel they are.
Well, no, worse people benefit less.
Are you sure?
100.
Because I feel like the heal is more apparent than before.
It's not.
No.
You can do testing if you don't notice it because you're not getting hit as much.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Well, no, that's the whole point. If you don't get hit as much, you get more mileage out of it because you're going to be constantly using it. Like if you get hit once or twice within like a minute or two span, you're going to get healed. And then by the time you get hit again, the cooldown's going to wear off. So you're going to be getting healed over and over again. It's going to feel like it's just endless healing. But if you're bad and you're getting hit over and over again, those heals dry up. You're going to have to wait the cooldown. So like it's not benefiting the people that are bad at the game. It's making it more trivial for the people that are good at the game. That's why people are complaining about it. And why they feel like it's infinite when it's not. It's not infinite. Now, something that could solve that is having risk reward. People want extra monster materials to mitigate the grind or whatever. Yeah. Plunder Blade existed in World. People wanted buffs. There were a lot of people that ran Coral Horn over the Vigor Wasp spray in World, including me, because there were all sorts of little buffs. Earplugs and attack boost and like all these other things that were added that were there with Coral Horn.
Especially when you already have health regen, you don't really need the heals anymore, so the buffs are really strong.
Or even just through prog, like people were running progression. So like it's at least you had the agency of choice. Wilds Palicos, while I do find them less useful because they're kind of like Jack of all trade, master of none, and they're just kind of annoying to me. GU Palicos, you can make trap spamming warriors, throwing out traps, and you can run 2 of them just destroying the monster and also providing you some heals on the side if you need to. Rise and Sunbreak, you can have 2 Palicos both supplying you with wire bugs, which is really, really strong, and popping up healing bubbles whenever you're getting hurt, which you can actually they linger, so you can kind of just wait until you get hit and then go pop them. They also have like other things like the power drum if you want to get an extra 20 raw, but that replaces the wire bug, so I never use that.
Rousing Roar.
And then bigger than anything, Shock Tripper. Shock Tripper gave Thunderblight to monsters, which allowed any weapon to stun the monster if you hit him in the head.
Baby.
So good. That's the reason why I didn't harp on how overpowered Wilds Palicos are, because I don't think they are compared to Rise and Sunbreak or GUs. I like them more.
Good. Yeah. Well, also to me, we've talked about this before a couple days ago, I think. Wilds Palico annoy the hell out of me because they take so much aggro. Because they actually use that gadget with the aggro a lot.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
Oh yeah, the shield.
And the thing is,
fucking shield taunt. Yeah, I hate that. You can't take out some of the gadgets, dude.
Then that's the thing. I would, if we had a choice, I would only bring Plunder Blade. I don't need the heals. I don't need the aggro taking away. I only want the extra materials, and that's the only thing I'm not putting the Palico away, because I do like the extra materials.
Oh yeah, and the Sunbreak and Rise Palicos, you could have Gathering, which would just do
exactly.
Anyway.
I always only had Gathering.
Ooh, and Endemic Life Barrage.
True, yeah.
So, Rise and Sunbreak Palicos are so good.
Para, Poison, or Sleep.
Oh, so the best Palicos in series, the best.
Yeah, and you can customize them like crazy. You can give them every stat.
You would get a guaranteed Para, Poison, and Sleep in the hunt just from your Palico. You didn't have to give them a status weapon because of that.
You didn't have to, but you could, and then give them also status to take up, and they could give you even more status.
You give them the status weapon, and you give them the tornado.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, so good.
Maybe also people didn't realize how strong they were because they never made good Palicos in the older game, like in Rise, for example.
That is possible. Yeah, and same thing in GU too. Like GU's, it's hard to make like a super souped up Palico. You have to go out of your way to do it, and it's a little convoluted, but. That's the thing. Like they're so strong. Funny little story about what you described with the Wilds Palico. So I was hanging around with the buds and I was waiting on them to join the quest. I got like distracted. I think my wife came in and was talking to me, and I actually got carded because I was like looking away and I was waiting on them to join. And I was just sitting. I was laying down because he was going to do the Vigor Wasp revive, but he was in the hot air balloon. And so I was sitting there laying down, and the funniest thing is that we had 3 people join the quest while I was laying down, but the Palico is still in the hot air balloon, and then it goes out, it drops the res on me while other people are in the quest already, and then just disappears. It just disappears. Because it was, but the thing is, it made me lay there for such a long time. People were literally able to join the quests before I got revived or whatever. It was such a weird interaction, but it was so funny. But we're a little bit on a different tangent. Back to the list: Arena Quest, Challenge Quest, Gathering Hub, Palico Gadget Control, side quests to unlock unique weapons of various kinds or unique different things like that. Monster Hunter Rise is the one that did a lot of that. Other games did that as well. Not World. World really didn't do that. But Monster Hunter Rise, you would be able to get all sorts of different unique weapons, like the cat paw dual blades.
Oh, it origami switch axe, for example.
Origami switch axe. Yeah, well, like basically every weapon had something like that, which was really cool.
The rice pounder sword blade.
yeah, and so like Rise had a lot of unique like weapons and armor, and a lot of it you would have to do side quests of various kinds. Wilds didn't have any of that. Soulful things like the canteen or cat chef, Wilds didn't have that. Optional ladder quests that would give rewards like rainbow pigment or even some unique layered equipment. World had like, after you did every optional, you would get rainbow pigment, and then you would also unlock these like super quests where you would have to fight like 3 tempered monsters, like 3 tempered elders and stuff. And it would there would be like fluff text, and like everyone in the Astera would have like a unique dialogue, like congratulating you for this, and that's how like you got like Sapphire Star guidance and stuff like that. And that kind of stuff was cool, and it gave you something to work towards. There was a lot of optional quests. You could say that's content bloat just because it was just optional quests for the sake of like getting a rainbow pigment. But it is what it is. That's another thing to work towards. That's just free incentive to play. It's just another thing. The unique layered equipment, you would get things like you would get the commander's, like you could get his gear as layered armor. And it was extra impactful because base world didn't have regular layered armor. The only layered armor you could get was the deluxe edition layered armor, or like 3 different armor sets, and other armor sets would be available through the arch tempered fights later on. Or like if you fight Extremith, you get the layered Draken armor. So like it was a bit more impactful, a bit more meaningful, but there's nothing like that in Wilds. The ability to go into the training room together is something that people are kind of sleeping on. Rise you could do that from the get-go. And that's you may not realize how important that is, but you can do damage comparisons. You can showcase like different ways the weapon works. You can teach people how to play in a more controlled setting while also seeing things with their build and comparing different things about their build. And it's just another layer of flavor of the game. Why can't we do that in this game? Why can't we enter the training room together? You know, like that's another little thing. Weapon layers. Rise had rampage weapons that were that you could put layered on. Already weapons aren't able to do that. World had beta armor differences from alpha. Whereas like Rise didn't have alpha and beta sets, World and Wilds both do, but the difference is Wilds alpha and beta sets look the same.
The same, yeah.
Yeah, the only difference is they have like a different like hue or color on some accent parts, but you can just change that anyways. In World, you literally had 2 different armor sets for male and female for 4 armor sets total, like design wise. Wilds, we don't get that. We get 2. And it's like, yeah, these are all things we can live without, but
yeah,
do we have to live without it for the sake of a bigger map or for the sake of anything else like this? For the sake of having to crush out bugs, or, you know, they decided to get too ambitious with something, so they're having to promote more time and resources into that. I'm not saying that's exactly why this is, but these are all things that were missing. Final boss was not repeatable. It didn't even have gear. Pookie costumes aren't in. We can capture pets again, but there's no housing. We can't even decorate with pets. Even Rise had housing, and even though it didn't have pets, you could still get items to put in it.
And put pictures up.
Yeah, and you could put pictures up. They added a photo mode in Rise, and you could put pictures up in your house. You can't do that in Wilds. There were so many different things that just aren't in, and it's like, yeah, it's not part of the core experience of Monster Hunter. It has nothing to do with the fighting the monsters. Well, some of it's a little bit like the arena quest or whatever, but these are things that were in previous titles, and not just previous titles. A lot of them were in every single title for the most part. Maybe only missing in a minority of the games. And so it's weird that they're missing, and it leads to this feeling of being unfinished. The game, people keep saying the game's unfinished, and people get confused about that. But when we talk about title updates, I'll expand on that a little bit later. If you're confused on that concept, there is a legitimate concern with things like this, and it is a morally gray area, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But there was a lot of shit missing, and that sucks. That fucking sucks. And some of it was added back in Title Update 1, and some of it might be added later in the DLC, but we paid $70 for this game, guys. And yeah, it would have been the equivalent of $60, you know, previously. It's just because the game changed. But, you know, think about it as we bought World for $60, we bought Rise for $60, you know? Like, we paid full price for these games. And so, like, just think about it that way. Now, flowers and credit where credit is due, Wilds had layered armor at launch compared to any of the other previous titles. So big ups to Capcom for that one. Now, on to more positive things, because we've been harping on the negative a little bit, and you know, we got to be realistic with these things, guys. You know, it's okay to like a Monster Hunter, it's okay to love Wilds, but you know, you have to be able to love it in a very level-headed manner. You know, if you truly love something, you can acknowledge its quirks and its negatives and still love it regardless. So, amen. I didn't mean to go too profound here. Hey, tell somebody you love them today. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, come join the Discord.
Oh, true. Yeah, join our Discord.
Yeah, come join the Discord. Yeah. We're a fun little community.
Yeah, and you know, just trying to be a little more positive right now. Let's get to the more positive aspects. Roster. So the roster is small. You can be kind of upset about that because it does share the same engine as Rise and Sunbreak. You know, so people could say there's less of an excuse for it to have a small roster. But the roster, you can really see how we feel about it in our tier list video. But to summarize, every monster is kind of like a hit. It's such a good roster. There's not many like skips as far as like not being a fun design or a unique design or being cool. I mean, hell, even the Guardian monsters, which some people could just wrap it up as just reskins. they're different. Their move sets are different. Their behavior's different. It's really cool all around. Also, they're doing some really cool shit, like adding moves from other monsters that are just basically like variants of it. So like Pink Rathian's Tail Swipe is actually on regular Rathian in this game. And, you know, so like little things like that. Gravios has some Basarios moves that it should have always had.
I mean, but Gravios had one of the biggest glow ups in Monster Gaming, I think, in the whole Monster series.
Yeah. So like Wilds, Tokuda, Flower, hats off to you, man. You cooked in this one. Way better than World's launch roster. Oops, all flying wyverns. Now, combat feels good. I do like a lot of the weapons more than their base world counterparts. I also like how complex some of the monsters are getting. I even like the tier 5 tempered Mizu backflip, you know, but that's title update. We'll get to that. I do have some nitpicks with fight flow. I'm no speedrunner or anything like that. This affects the speedrunner community a lot more, but the things like angular commitment being diminished, the perfect guard being extremely strong and making some things redundant, like Charge Blade doesn't really need guard points anymore.
Yeah, perfect guard is just better in every way.
Yeah. Hyper armor on like a bunch of random shit is gratuitous. Like there's not really much need for that. And it
also diminishes the rest of the weapon moveset because
like full release slash for Switch X, which they already were. The funny thing about full release slash is that people were already criticizing it because the damage was being funneled to it. Their response was, okay, we added hyper armor to it.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't hear that part about the damage criticism. They only heard, I get hit out of it because it's so slow. I bet you that's what
I don't know, dude. There were so many people that were like, dude, I'm so tired of this being my only move. I can do great damage.
Yeah.
Because even in beta, they were like, man, Swax does shit damage for some reason. Don't think it does good damage as that.
To be fair, they also buffed all the sword attacks. So your sword
but it still goes down to FRS spam.
Yeah, but I think it's because of the hyper armor now. Like if they remove that, it would be a good like high risk, high reward damage move. That would fix it. That's so funny though. Like the fact that people were like, it's too much. It's FRS. It's just too much. Okay, we put hyper armor on it. Focus mode and strikes. Focus mode, I'm kind of conflicted on. I don't mind it too much. I actually find it kind of inhibiting in some ways though, which kind of makes me a little upset. I don't like that. I played World and Rise IG, and I find Wild's IG to be more clunky in playstyle, not just because it's relying on that really shitty control scheme, but it's not as like free flowing. When I'm playing World and Rise IG, wherever I'm pointing, I can hit. And I can just like move however I want to, and all I gotta do is just control the camera. It's not really that tornado combo loop is not really that. It's not necessary to be able to turn and shit. And so focus mode actually kind of diminishes that a little bit for me. I know that's like one specific weapon, but that's just like one example of like how it's not really as good as like I guess they want it to be. And another issue is the strikes. The strikes and things like flinch thresholds and all that being tied to it, it makes your big moments feel less special. I know that Tokuda's in the kitchen right now. He's Chef Gusto from Ratatouille, and he's like, anyone can cook. And, you know, he's kind of giving anybody the ability to have like a good moment, like a special moment. But I think the moments feel more special when you don't see them coming. When you have like people that they don't really know how to play, and then they manage to like hit the monster in the face with something really big, and the monster flinches backwards, and they're like, oh shit, what I just did right there, that was good. I need to fucking do more of that. Yeah.
That's kind of lost in Wilds.
Yeah.
And
because they're just handing it out, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, hold left trigger, or if you're toggled, press left trigger, and now watch out for the little orange spots, and then press your big move button, and and then you can do it.
Yeah,
it's kind of I'm conflicted on it. I'm conflicted on it.
Well, we've talked about it before, right? Like how wounds, the way they are right now at least, or the way the monsters react to them is kind of problematic. Because the wounds themselves are okay. Like, let's say if all they did was, you do damage, you get extra parts for popping the wounds, no one would bat an eye, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
and
the fact that they
to be fair as
flinch,
well, it's not like wound strikes are always the best thing to do.
in terms of damage, they oftentimes are actually really not.
Yeah, you do want to be hitting the wounds with regular attacks, especially like if you're using something like Greatsword. So
and because of weakness exploit.
Yeah, because of weakness exploit, which for the first time, it actually, with the weakness exploit getting tied to some other mechanic, it's actually kind of like, oh, that's kind of an inadvertent nerf to focus strikes, because you want to be able to hit the wounds. Because for the first time in history, we have full like 360 degree motion with like everything.
Yeah.
This is more drastic than whenever they added being able to roll backwards.
Yeah.
People don't think about that. Like people used to not even be able to roll backwards. So
I mean, to be fair, focus mode is, in my opinion, stronger than wirebug attacks or wirebug.
I think it depends. Really I think it depends. Now they're already addressing some of this with making wounds less apparent on tier 8 tempereds. I mean, even HR Zoshia wounds are less prevalent. So they're already taking steps in the right direction for overall challenge. We'll have to see how things go completely. World also had issues with heavy CC. You had unlimited flash pods. Infinite restock led to the capability to even further have unlimited flash pods. You could still do trap spamming, which has been a series staple for quite some time.
That's not going to go away.
Yeah, that's not going to go away. It requires a little more work, but you still, like if you have one dude just laying down traps over and over again, and you have like a team with good ranged weapons for previous games.
I mean, if you have like a trap spammer, you can use anything. You can use 3 Greatsword people and just TCS him over and over again. He's gonna die.
Yeah, true. You could just delete things. Anything that wasn't an elder, you could trap spam. And there were other little things that kept monsters glued to the floor. Like everyone loved the sticky HPG guys that would come in at SOS hunts or whatever. And sticky was so fucking good. You would literally keep them down the entire hunt. And with Wilds and World having comparable kill times, it was still like a similar result of monsters being CC'd to death. Here's the thing about Wilds though. Wilds has more accessible CC potential for the common player. Status is incredibly strong in Wilds.
Yeah.
And flinching from wounds are another example. Yeah. Probably the monsters, the base Monster Hunter experience in New Gen with the least amount of like CC capability was probably base Rise, which is kind of funny to think about. It was probably base Rise, which had less prominence with accessible CC. And there are like different things they can do. Like they're already doing the tier 8s thing. They do need to nerf status. I think status being good is not a bad thing, but it's too good. it's too good. You got if you have 2 sleep greatswords on your 4-man, the monster's going to be slept like 5 times.
Well, it's also because because the sleep values are so high. Like, look at how much sleep.
Well, even Para,
that too.
Yeah, like everything is really, really strong, like status wise.
Yeah.
So despite all of that being said, this affects people like me a lot less than people in the community that care more about finesse and thoughtfulness during fights, like speedrunners. It's easy to see why a lot of them seem to be incredibly dissatisfied because of that. And because of the way things like flinch thresholds have changed. You know, these guys like used to have to 140 IQ, 150 IQ, count flinch thresholds and all this other shit that went into it. And now it seems like other people can come in and start speedrunning and it's easier to get into now. Which, you know, you could argue it's a good or a bad thing, but it is what it is. People are used to it being a specific way. And they changed it drastically and made it way more accessible. It's one thing to have like a fight be more accessible through like moving while healing and anything else. And it's another thing to have the deepest echelons of what the series used to be kind of around, which was shaving down time. That was like the end game, which is why speedrunners got so prominent. It's another thing to have that diminished when that's been like such a core community thing. Because the speedrunners and their relationship with Monster Hunter, that's been around way back. So that one's a hard one. I still like Wild's combat, and in casual settings, I still find it as tantalizing as I found like multiplayer settings in other base titles, like Base Rise and Base World, especially with the actual challenge runs of multiplayer, which is doing SOS quests. You never know if those quests will be completed against the harder challenges, and that doesn't change in Wilds. You go against a tier 5 tempered Gore, tier 5 tempered Arkveld, not even counting tier 5 tempered Mizu or Zoe, and you don't know if that quest is going to be completed. Even if you make a crazy cracked out speed eating wide range build, you still don't know. That's like the true like real challenge run on multiplayer. And that's still alive and well in Wilds. So is it like that brain dead? I don't know. There's a lot of people that's still struggling out there. Now, out of all the base games, I do believe Wilds has the most complex AI by the end of the game. Like even going back for the difficulty video, testing out all these monsters, even like Tempered Furious Rajang has way more time in between its attacks than HR Gore Magala, which is hard to think about. Because the whole meme about Furious Rajang and Iceborne was how he doesn't stop attacking and he's oppressive. Because everyone's like, oh, they made Iceborne monsters cracked out. Oh, they made Furious Rajang, he might be too crazy. In fact, Herney, funny enough, had a whole video about how Rajang is kind of annoying in Iceborne compared to like his more simplistic fight in like 4 and even GU. But yeah, Gore's like his attack rate basically just as fast, if not faster, with faster combos. A lot of the monsters in World, they might do a 1-2 combo, maybe, but most of the time it's like one attack and then there's a pause, one attack, there's a pause, one attack, there's a pause. Like that's the commonality in World monsters. It's more simple.
Yeah.
Whereas in Wilds, Arkveld has 3-hit combos. In fact, Arkveld has a diagonal chain slash combo where if he hits you with one of the first 2 strikes, he knocks you down and there's no iframes on the knockdown.
Well, I can think of many instances or many monsters in Wilds, not even the highest tiers, like freaking Guardian Rathos or Guardian Doshiguma that have multi-hit combos, and if you get hit by the first part, you might just eat the second one because it sets you up.
Yeah, so like that's the thing. Like Wild's monster AI is extremely complex compared to other new gen titles. That I like that a lot, and while it's diving more into the Sunbreak effect, where like your hunters are extremely strong and able to do this crazy shit. So they make monsters that are extremely strong and able to do crazy shit to kind of combat it. It is tiptoeing into that category. And I can see why people that liked World for the simpler monsters, simpler movesets, I can see why they like that more. But for someone like me, I do like the cracked out shit. I really do.
Same.
So if Wilds can lock down that what Rise was kind of pulling off with a more monster and moveset complexity with less accessible lockdown potential, I think that it would go from Rise being my favorite base combat so far to Wilds potentially. But as of right now, Rise is still better to me overall. But it is like high praise that I even consider Wilds to be going in that direction. And while no, it's not completely there yet, I think that we give them some time to cook, they're going to make it right. Sure enough, when the Monster Hunter cycle hits full circle and the next game launches, and people that are hating on Wilds now for everything, they're going to go hate on the new game. They're going to come back and they're going to be like, well, Wilds was better than I thought, but that's because of all the updates that came out. So, we're going to see that happen. But yeah, combat overall, I would say it's an overall positive. There are negatives to it, and the negatives do affect other people more than me. And I can see that and I can respect that. But as far as like I go personally, I don't mind it with a lot of the ways that I play already. Like as a casual, as someone who likes dipping into multiplayer and likes joining SOSs sometimes, someone who likes to play with people that are far worse than me or just not really great at the game. You know, I enjoy that aspect of helping friends out and teaching new people to play the game and things like that. You know, I don't mind Wilds. I like the combat. I like the monster complexity. I already like the route that they're going. And with Title Update 1, bringing us Tempered Mizu and Mizu as a whole, I am excited to see what is in the future. Lagiacrus, please be good.
Yeah, to listen to you, I would probably agree. Especially as I prefer, at least in Wilds, I prefer to play solo a lot. And the solo experience in Wilds is, I think, actually really freaking good. Like, even in terms of difficulty, at least if you stick to, the actual 4 and 5 star purple star templates.
Yeah.
I find myself way more challenged than anything World ever had to offer. Even especially because the templates in World, you would kill them just as fast. If you know the moveset, then they're just gonna die, just like the normal ones. In terms of favorite combat, I think I'm torn between Rise and Wilds, because as someone that likes to play all the weapons besides the 2 bowguns, no one likes those, right? I'm just kidding, guys. Don't hate me in the comments. I like to play all the weapons all the time, and I think Wilds right now has a better, even with some of the outliers they have, it has a better overall balance for me. Because when I think back about the weird design choices for Rise, how Hammer was funneled into Big Bang. Not Big Bang, what's this?
Impact Crater. Yeah.
How Sword and Shield was funneled into the Shield Bash combo, which was ass. How, Longsword was awesome. Longsword was cool.
I still miss Base Rise Longsword to this day.
Exactly. And I think I like the base versions of that we have in Wilds right now more. Even like the bad ones that we have right now might only be Hammer, and the moveset is amazing. It just needs a little bit more damage, for example. And same for Swags. Sure, FRS is really strong, but the rest of the moveset is not terrible. Like, and you can't use FRS all the time, otherwise you're gonna die. Like, sure, you have hyper armor, but you still take damage.
Yeah, it's not like you have easy access Rocksteady with health augment all the time.
Exactly. Like, if you tank all those hits from 4 and 5 star monsters, you're gonna die. And with the whole perfect guard and counter gameplay, I like it. I don't like not having to do anything, because evading for me is, sure, evading attacks kind of feel satisfying, but perfect guarding and stuff and countering is more satisfying to me. I don't care if it makes it easier, Being able to do stuff like that is...
there is like a layer of difference that isn't really nice for like being able to counter stuff. Now, with you bringing up challenge and like pinnacle content and stuff, I do have to say, like, out of the 3 games in New Gen, like base, tier 4 and 5 Tempered Gore and Arkfeld were harder than anything available at launch for either of those games. And not even close. Like, not even close. Some people would say, like, maybe Tempered Kieran might get close. With the previous vid, I went back there after not fighting Kieran for years and years and years with an HR set, and I dusted his ass just because of null berries. I didn't really think that much either, because like I said in the vid, Kieran is designed to kill you because of CC. Like, he's designed to stun you or parry you, and then kill you when you can't fight. Like, actually get out of the way. And like, that's literally how he's designed.
And he's an anti-Rocksteady monster.
Yeah, anti-Rocksteady as well. So like, if you don't run Rocksteady, if you're keeping yourself from getting parried or stunned, you're good to go. And even then, like, getting stunned can be kind of hard as long as you avoid Thunderblight. Yeah, even compared to that, I don't think anything holds a candle to Temp Gore and even Temp Arkveld. And the thing is, like, Temp Arkveld isn't even that hard. Like,
well, not only those two, I'd say I remember I had some tempered 5-star New Udra investigation saved up. And that thing slapped my ass, to be honest, because first of all, I barely fought it, to be honest.
What's weird about New Udra is New Udra's beating the shit out of some people.
Yeah, because it's also
I
like
think
they're
it's
not
just how weird it is. I think it's just
exactly.
For me, I don't have a problem with New Udra, but there are people getting their shit rocked by him.
Well, to be fair, you play Gunless, anything is easy. I'm just
no, like even with anything else, like I fought him with Great Sword, Long Sword, SNS, Lance, like.
Well, solo or?
Yeah, solo too.
Okay, I think he can be pretty scary.
The thing is though, like, he's funny because you can just run to his backside.
True,
and, like, it's still like weak zones. So
he does have good juicy zones everywhere. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So like, I think he's just weird. But yeah, it as far as like challenges go, now my overall mindset towards difficulty and challenge, we can get into that, but this video is already rather long. This will be the perfect spot for me to plug my boy Zhun. This guy is such an excellent content creator, super underrated. He's up and coming. He had me on in like a podcast, and we actually touch on a lot of different things, from my difficulty video to difficulty in Monster Hunter as a whole, and why GU is my favorite game and why I, perceive difficulty very differently depending on which of these types of games I'm playing. One of the aspects of difficulty, any criticism that I can give to Wilds as far as difficulty goes, I can give to other new gen titles. In fact, you guys, if you watched my big ass fucking long video, you already saw a lot of that. Some people chalked my video as Wilds glaze, but no, it was more of an overall critique of new gen Monster Hunter as a whole.
Yeah, and you guys heard like our opinions on Wilds in this video. Like, there's a lot of, it's not just, flowers and roses, whatever it's called.
No, don't get me wrong, I love Wilds, and like I said, I do think that at launch content is more challenging than the other games' launch content, but nothing in new gen Monster Hunter makes me feel the way that I feel when I play GU. And I love new gen. Don't get me wrong, I love new gen. And occasionally, my favorite game switches from GU to Rise Sunbreak. They kind of switch back and forth. I can't decide which one's truly my favorite. But GU makes me feel things. it makes me feel things I don't get to feel in new gen.
It makes me feel anger when I'm fighting freaking Devil Jump.
But yeah, if you're interested in hearing more about that, check out this video by Zhun. It's an awesome discussion. He's such a fun guy. He's such a cool guy. Drop him a sub too if you like him. Now, title updates. We're going to close it out with this. I have a little spiel. Title updates are hard because we're used to them in new gen, and they've even like somewhat done similar shit in the previous games. Like, for example, Heavy Wings. I actually watched some Heavy Wings videos recently talking about title updates and everything. He brings up 4 and how there was monsters on the cartridge that wouldn't be available until they released them as event quests. So monsters that were already in the game, they wouldn't let you fight them until event quests. So similar to like how you would do a title update, where you have the plan to make a monster, and you already have it planned before launch, but you just kind of wait to release it. So the structure of title updates, we can already chalk it up to it's for the sake of extending player engagement. So the main reason the title update model is here to stay is because financially it makes the most sense. Giving people free incentive to come back via title updates alongside seasonal content drops with lots of microtransactions means more people will be paying for more over time. It also means a larger steady player stream across the year as opposed to a standard full package drop. If everything were included in day 1, the audience would be dropping, less and less people would be playing by the time like content pack 3 comes 4 months after launch. Less people are going to be around to buy that. In a positive way, it does work as a funnel for the whole community to kind of experience new things at the same time. And it does give Capcom room to breathe to make fights harder or different than they originally planned. However, the moral gray area of adding legacy features that have been present in like every game is when people get the feeling that the game is unfinished. Rise got flagged for this back in the day, but at least they had COVID during the most important development years as an excuse. And even then, it only took them 2 months to pump out 4 Elder Dragons, the final boss fight, which was a spectacle in and of itself, and like 3 Apex monsters that were also different fights. Like, they popped out so much shit in 2 months.
Yeah.
Even if they made some bad decisions along the way, that was pretty cool. Now, World came out by all means feeling pretty complete. And the title updates felt like they were small in comparison to like Rise or even title update 1 from Wilds. And by small, I mean like they only added like 1 monster.
Yeah, Devil Joe title update 1, KT title update 2.
Lunastra title update 3, the so on and so forth. But World had like 5 title updates and they all felt like cherries on top. Rise was hype. Those 2 huge content bursts were so hype. But it was to play catch up, and it led to the community having blue balls when it just kind of stopped. People were expecting the burst content to continue, because World had 5 title updates.
Yeah.
But people were disappointed because instead of strong cherries on top, like something to rival Behemoth and Cool, Rise was only trying to play catch up to what they should have launched with. You couldn't help but feel kind of shortchanged, being strung along as Capcom completed Rise in the realest sense possible, while constantly selling more and more pricey DLC. People are rightfully worried Wilds is going to repeat a similar process. Title Update 1 has been pretty strong, but we will have to hope and see what the future holds. Are they going to keep playing catch up, and then are they going to put cherries on top like what World did? Or is it going to be something different entirely? Or are they going to just pull the rug out from under us and shortchange us and just sell big content packs? You know, we never really know, and I think that's the scary part about it, right? And why people want feature complete, because you could have the mindset of, oh, you should just be grateful you're getting free content, but they're monetizing all of this content. It's not just free. They are monetizing it, and they are using some tricky ways to keep player retention so more people will be exposed to more things, you know, monetarily wise. World and Rise had quests to get cool and unique weapons and cool layered armors and things like that, whereas Wilds right now is selling a lot of the coolest shit in content packs. And while, yeah, things like the Blossom Dance Festival came out, and the Sakura Tide armor, to be honest, is probably the best looking event armor, like seasons wise, out of like Wilds and World, who both did the seasons thing. I would say Sakura Tide's probably the best looking out of both of those games. And so that's really, really cool. And as long as they keep that train up, they're going to have me invested, and they're going to have a lot of people invested. And I'm going to keep, you know, a little bit of hope and goodwill in their pocket. But it's really easy for, even if it's not the devs' faults, like even if Toku is not making the choice, even if Ryozo doesn't make the choice and it's someone above him at Capcom, true.
His actual daddy.
Yeah, his actual dad. We can see things go south really quickly if they feel like they can pull one over on us consumers. And that's the way so many game companies have went. And Capcom has been leaning closer and closer in this direction, and they've been flirting with it. Please, Capcom, don't go through with it. And guys, if they do, it's our responsibility to help put them down. So, you know, that's the main thing. Let's be hopeful, but let's also be realistic. You know, we don't have to be overly negative, but let's just keep looking at history and hope it doesn't repeat itself, and hope that they learn from it.
Yeah, I think you know, Title Update 2 is going to be very, very telling. Because we only know that they're going to add the Gaia Cruise and maybe one more monster, you know. I don't know if that's confirmed, but we know about the Gaia Cruise. But we don't know what else they're going to add, you know. Is it going to be housing? Are they going to actually keep playing catch up with stuff that was supposed to be in? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
And if it's only the Gaia Cruise, then we could consider the game complete, and this is just, you know, cherries on top now. Which would kind of suck, because, you know, housing would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where they would put it, but
they could put it in Big Mama's cave and the Grand Hub with the giant Downy crate.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if they want to add a house, it's gonna have to, you know, in the place where it could be. Would it be in Suja, or I don't know, in the Grand Hub, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Grand Hub. That'd be sick.
Yeah. And the list for Pandemic Life also, I still have honestly no idea what they mean by that. Like, what list? Is it going to be only in the Hunter profile, or
possibly Hunter profile?
But I will have to see. Title Update 2 is going to be really telling.
Any closing statements, Berti?
That was a long one again.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we touched on everything, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we didn't. We tried to stay away from DLC, which we could go into that, you know, as soon as whilst DLC comes out.
Yeah, we'll definitely make a new video on the DLC.
Yeah, because DLC is a whole different story.
Yeah,
because Sunbreak is a freaking home run in almost, like, at least in my opinion, is probably my favorite Monster Hunter experience, and I rated like almost a 10 out of 10. I don't give any 10 out of 10 to anything, but it's almost there.
I think completed Sunbreak is
yes.
Yeah,
with updates, yeah. Because again, base expansion was also not perfect. Like, just like base Iceborne wasn't.
Yeah,
and probably base Wilds expansion is not going to be perfect either. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, appreciate you coming on here and having a good time with me. You know, yapping away. I hope everyone that stayed and listened enjoyed it. You know, it's fun to talk about this shit.
Yeah, let us know what we could have touched on as well, like what we might have missed.
True. Let us know what you think about the stuff we touched on, because that this was just our perspective, and so love to hear from you guys. I guess I got one more thing to say. Stay meaty, my friends.
Stay meaty, my friends. Enjoy the Discord.
I've got dinner ready. Let him cook.